You're listening to the Heavy Duty Parts Report. I'm your host, Jamie Irvin, and this is the podcast where you will get expert advice about the heavy duty parts you buy and keep you informed about what's happening in the industry. This episode is sponsored by truckpartsinventory.com. Lowering cost per mile is all about finding the right part quickly. At truckpartsinventory.com, you will save time by searching inventory from around North America in one place. You will save money by having the option of buying new, used, or aftermarket parts. You'll save yourself work by sending a parts request and having companies contact you. Truckpartsinventory.com is easy to use and it's free. Go to truckpartsinventory.com today. It's not if something goes wrong, it's when something goes wrong. We are experiencing difficult times in 2020, but as an industry, we've pulled together. If you'd like to listen in at the end of this interview, you're going to hear a conversation between our guest today and I, and I think that you're going to find a message of hope. So please listen to the entire interview. But before we get to that conversation we had, let's talk about why we're here. The world has seen how important it is to keep trucks on the road with our current circumstances that we're facing this pandemic. Trucks provide us with everything we need: medical supplies, food, clothing, energy, everything. They're the backbone of our society in a lot of ways. But what happens when you need a part? The truck's gotta go, and your local supplier doesn't have it on the shelf. To help us with that, I'd like to introduce Scott Tates of truckpartsinventory.com. Now, if that is sounding a little familiar to you, it's because one of Scott's sales professionals was on the podcast in episode 7, and they've now become a sponsor of the podcast. Scott, welcome to the Heavy Duty Parts Report.
Thanks, Jamie. Glad to be here.
So for those listeners who haven't heard episode 7, tell us the story of when you started your company.
So my dad had a salvage yard when I was growing up, and I used to cut trucks and help people find their parts and stuff. And my dad ended up shutting down. We had a EPA problem, and we ended up shutting down, and I had nothing to do. One of the things that I've always wanted to do, because I watched my dad struggle in the business, he would go away, and as soon as he'd go away, the sales would drop off. He knew where the parts were, he knew what fit what, and he knew what to charge for them. And so I'd always wanted to start a computer-generated system to be able to help salvage yards sell parts. And so I saw this as a good opportunity. I was a little bit early. I ate a lot of Itchy Band noodles when I first started, but I just created a system to try and find parts, and it was generated out of the need and seeing my dad struggle.
So we've seen that sector of the industry evolve from junkyard to recycle to recycled parts, right? I guess it was junkyard used parts, and now it's actually recycled parts. That industry has come a long way. But when people come to your website, not only do they have access to recycled parts, but they can get access to other kinds of parts as well. Is that correct?
That's correct. Just to your point about a junkyard, a lot of our guys joke about being a junkyard, but there is no Sanford and Sons anymore. It's those days are long gone. The environmental impact of some of the old practices, you cannot do that nowadays. When you buy a recycled part, it's nice, painted, and ready to go. One of the problems with salvage, though, is that there's just not enough, especially on the collision parts, there's just not enough supply to supply all of the collisions that happen as a result of regular trucking. So they'll have aftermarket hoods and other aftermarket products to accommodate that.
Okay, so times are tough right now, and people's cash flows are contracting. How much does your service cost?
Well, and that's the good news. For looking for parts, it's absolutely free. The way we make our money is that we charge the advertiser. So the guy that's putting the parts onto our service pays a subscription fee, and that's how we make our money. So it's absolutely free for anybody looking.
Okay, that's fantastic news for everyone looking for parts.
Well, and those businesses, the repair business and the trucking business, you don't need any extra expenses.
No, and we could all benefit from a little bump in margin too.
Sure.
So when you go to your local parts store and they're pulling inventory from what they have on the shelf, they also often pull from a distribution center or a DC. It could be as much as a couple hundred miles away. But that's kind of the limit of where they're pulling parts from in the typical situation with an aftermarket distributor. But it's kind of unique when you go on truckpartsinventory.com. Can you explain the scope of where people can pull parts from?
So, well, there's two aspects to that. First of all, we have coverage. We have customers all across North America. So wherever you're located, we've got parts companies there. That's the first thing. Second thing is if you're looking for a really rare part, let's say you're looking for a new rare part, we in terms of the PDCs, we don't allow our customers to post inventory from PDCs. The reason for that is that we want the inventory to be in their inventory. We used to allow people to post the PDC inventory, but then the inventory would get stale and then people would be looking for stuff in their inventory and it was already sold 3 months ago. So we only want, if somebody's sending us surplus inventory to post on TPI, we won't take it if it has PDC inventory in it.
Okay, that makes sense. So let's talk about a scenario. We've got a truck that's broken down. The driver's in an unfamiliar city. He Googles the local parts place or repair facility. They can't find the part that they need, and you've got a load of medical supplies that got to go. It's urgent. How can truckpartsinventory.com help? Walk us through the actual process of how that could get the truck back on the road, let's say even next day.
So can I do a screen share?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay.
It's not
So
it's not good for podcast audio, but we'll try to explain it audibly as well as show our viewers on YouTube the actual screenshot.
okay, so actually there's two different ways that you can do it. You can just go up here and type the part that you're looking for. This is specifically if you know the part number that you're looking for. It's better to do the search up here, but you can search by make and model up here. The other way that we can help you is by clicking on this part request.
Okay, so just a second, Scott. So for people who are just listening, you're driving in your car right now, what we've done is we've gone to truckpartsinventory.com. Right at the top of the homepage, there is a bar that says find your part, and you can actually start typing in the part number there. Below that, like most websites, there's tabs. The tab to the far right is part request, and now he's going to click on that.
So when you click on part request, it asks you which category your part that you're looking for is in.
Right. So what I'm seeing there, Scott, is I'm seeing a picture of a truck. It looks like a diagram of a truck almost.
Yeah.
And then on the left-hand side, so for everyone listening, what you're seeing is you're seeing all the different categories of a truck. Things like accessories, brake, bumper, cab, differential, engine, equipment, front axle, etc. And as you toggle over each one of those categories, the image actually highlights in red the part category that you're now going to look at.
Right. So if I want an engine part, I click on engine, and then it gives me a form that's a specific engine request. So it's going to ask you things like horsepower, make and model of the engine, and so forth. We want to make sure that we get the information that we need in order to fill your request. And this is more for people who they may not know what the part number is. They may not know all of the details of the part, or there may be different versions of the part. This is for them who they may not be parts people.
Right. So that part information is kind of an expanded search criteria other than just relying on a part number, which actually, if we've ascertained that part number incorrectly, we could be sending everyone down the wrong road. This additional information makes sure that the search criteria is accurate.
Correct.
Great. And then I see on the right-hand side, there's contact information. So that's where you put in all your information.
Yep.
And a great thing about your service is that this allows people to contact you. So you can go and do other important things while waiting for the availability of that part to come in. Is that correct?
Correct. So basically, when you finish filling this form in, what happens is that let's say that you're looking for a cab part. It sends that information to our members who deal in cab related parts. It doesn't send it to the engine guys and stuff like that. And if they have the part, they just contact you directly. We're not involved in the transaction at all. We just
So,
want to put the people who are looking with the people who have it together so they can find the parts that they need fast.
and because your members that are selling parts through your website are all across North America, the reality is that, like in that scenario where you're in an unfamiliar city, there very well may be that part right in that city and can be just quickly couriered over to the repair shop, get the truck fixed, and get it back on the road.
Correct.
Fantastic. Okay, so we're going to stop sharing screen here, unless you had something else you wanted to show us, Scott.
Nope, that's everything.
Okay, that's fantastic. So you've built this really because you saw a need in the industry, and I think you're filling that need very, very well. One thing that I would like to ask you is, when it comes to people thinking about using truck parts inventory, like, who is your ideal person looking for a part, and what message do you have for them about how you do business?
So, like we were talking about prior to the podcast, and I think you're going to append that onto the end. What we have a passion for this industry, and we have a passion to serve people, whether it's the people who are selling parts or whether it's the people that are looking for parts. One of the things that like, we take phone calls from people that are broke down because they've tried to find this in using other methods. They haven't been successful. We need to help those guys, and that our whole business philosophy is based on serving.
Fantastic. So the ideal person then is either someone who owns a truck that needs it repaired, but then you must deal with repair facilities like independent repair shops and mobile guys as well. Do they use your service, or is that kind of where we're trying to also get those people's attention by coming on the podcast?
Yeah, and sorry, I didn't really answer your question, but there is no real ideal. We have everything from a guy restoring a 1948 International to airport crews that have really old equipment that they use only once or twice a year, and everything in between, fleets and repair shops and mobile guy. Like, the scope of the people that we handle on the user side, I think we're getting it roughly between 8,500 and 10,000 users a day coming to Truck Parts Inventory, and it really spans a gamut of industries.
That's great. One of the things I remember talking to Brandon about when he came on the podcast was just the evolution of recycled parts. People maybe aren't fully aware of how that actually works. Because of collision, you may need an engine or a transmission or something significant like that, and you could be buying it through truckpartsinventory.com, and your vehicle could be a 2018. Is that correct?
Yeah. Um, one of the main reasons people go with recycled parts is just because it's cheaper. Typically it's 50% of what new is kind of, and I guess it depends on the amount of demand for that one item, but um, a lot of those parts interchange to older models, so they're able to use parts that have been on trucks for up to 5 years.
Okay. And then also, a lot of the people that you do business with are, like, especially if it's like an engine or if it's a transmission, they're dynoing these things. This is not just buying something that got tore out of a truck and sending it to you. This is buying an actual quality part that's actually had some attention given to it prior to it being sold.
Absolutely. And it goes to that Sanford and Sons comment earlier. Some of your younger viewers may or listeners may not understand that reference, but um, the days of that old junkyard way of doing business are gone. There's just they can't operate like that. When people get their part, they're putting it in a truck. It needs to run, and so they're dyno testing them. They're a lot of guys, if you're getting a crankshaft or something, they're magnafluxing it before. This isn't you're getting a quality part before you. These guys are checking it out before they send it to you. They don't want returns. They don't want the hassle. They don't want the bad PR. The members who are on TPI are very professional. And the other thing that I'll add on that as well is that, and we had discussed this earlier, was that if we have any problems with anybody on TPI, we just chuck them off. We're not going to entertain one of our customers who's posting parts on TPI, sending the users of these parts. They're already in a desperate situation already, and then to have bad parts being sent to them, and then they spend all that time and effort installing it and then find out it doesn't work. We take that very, very seriously, and we don't tolerate it. And we have kicked people off of TPI. It doesn't happen often because we like to check them out before they get onto the service, but we've had a couple slip through the cracks, but they're gone.
Well, times they are changing, and sometimes the way people do business changes over time too. So sometimes you can't control that. You can vet someone and they do a good job for a while and then things change. So it's good for people who are thinking about using TPI to be able to have the confidence, because they know that you've got that, really the mindset around serving the industry and filling a need that is definitely there, and that you can help them. So that's fantastic.
Yeah, and I would go as far as to say that we also look for customers who have that same vision. I don't think you can be in business anymore without having some type of higher calling. And so we look for customers who want to serve other customers, right? That's the people that we look for. That's the ones we love working with, because we can send customers to them with confidence, knowing that they're going to take care of the guy.
You've been listening to the Heavy Duty Parts Report. I'm your host, Jamie Irvin, and today we've been speaking with Scott Tates of truckpartsinventory.com. To learn more, you guessed it, go to truckpartsinventory.com. Scott, thank you very much for being on the podcast today, sharing your viewpoint, and thank you for your support and sponsoring the podcast. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Jamie. My pleasure. The other upside of this is that you're going to see, and I was listening to the news this morning, there was an ad for tech people to donate an hour of their wages a day. And I thought, this is where the community can really rally behind. And do we really need the government that much? Can we look after each other? I think we can. And I think the reliance on the government, like someone who is 3,000 miles away from us, do they know the needs of what's happening in Edmonton, Alberta, or what's happening in New Brunswick? I don't know.
Yeah, I think, I mean, there's a role for government for sure, but when it comes to community, I agree with you 100%, because the reality is that there is so much abundance in our society,
Right.
and if we work together, and if we come together to come up with some unique solutions, like, I mean, industry's leading the way. I saw yesterday that Bauer is making face masks now for the medical community. I mean, they're a hockey equipment company, right? But they're rising to the challenge. And I agree, like when you said that this is going to expose like the floaters in society and the people who are just taking, it's so true, because I think that there are some people who are working low end jobs right now who are going to rise to the occasion, and by the time the next downturn happens, they might be millionaires. And I mean, I sat at a table in Atlanta with three millionaires who were broke in 2008, 2009,
Wow.
right? Because they took advantage of the upswing on the other end of that catastrophe, and they worked really hard, and what I think is cool about each one of them is they served our industry in a different way. And so, like, that's the part that I don't like about a lot of people's attitudes, is that you get rewarded for your contribution to the marketplace. I'm sorry, but that is the way our economy works. And if you serve your industry and you fill a need that's important, you're going to get rewarded. Now, not everybody can become millionaires and billionaires, but you can make an above average wage. You don't have to be making minimum wage.
But you bring up a great point in that, why are you doing what you do? Do you do it to serve other people, or do you do it just to make a paycheck? And this kind of situation that's happening right now will really separate the men from the boys. This has been our company philosophy the whole way. We are here to serve people, and if we don't, like even our hiring process, the way that we work here is that if you're not a person that wants to serve other people, whether it's your coworkers or whether it's the people calling in looking for parts, we don't want you here. It's that simple. And we're very passionate about that. And if we concentrate on serving other people, we'll get paid. It just happens. And you
Yeah.
don't, as long as you focus on the serving, that's the important thing.
I remember when I had my contracting business, we had that philosophy with both our employees and our customers. It was like we're here to do a job. We're going to do it safely. We're going to do it professionally. We're going to work hard on behalf of our clients, our customers, because if we do our job correctly, then a 65-year-old man doesn't go up on a ladder cleaning his gutters and falls and dies,
Right.
breaks a hip and dies. Like, it's serious business. On the other side, if you're not a customer that appreciates the value we're bringing, we don't want to work with you. And I'm very happy to have employees that don't fit in that model and customers that don't fit in that model go to my competitors. It makes me stronger and it makes them weaker. And that's a good thing for us because we're the good guys and we're doing it right. And that was my attitude. And I think I try to bring that forward in heavy duty parts industry because, let's face it, we're, truckers and transportation and logistics is the backbone of our society. And people are learning that for the first time right now.
Absolutely. Yeah, we've had situations before. We had a guy that was selling engine components on our service, and he was taking the deposits for a flywheel housing or a front cover or something, and then taking a long time to ship it, or not shipping, or forgetting to ship it, or whatever. We kicked him off because he has to realize that those people need those parts to get their truck back on the road. They're not going to wait 2 weeks. The whole reason why they're coming to truck parts inventory is because they need the part to get the truck back on the road. Their livelihood depends on this. So we don't mess around. If we get complaints about a company, we just chuck them off because it's not worth it for us to be sullied by that one guy that's not performing his duty correctly. Again, it comes back to serving, right?
Yeah. And I think that, like, I see two sides of it. So on the one side, we were talking about the people who kind of just floating along and maybe taking credit where credit isn't due and just kind of doing the bare minimum. And when I think about the flip side of that, like people who are willing right now to look forward while everybody's running in that direction and move forward now, when everybody turns around and tries to recover, they're going to be farther ahead. And I think that there's nothing wrong with those people being rewarded, especially if they're doing something that's impactful in some way. Like, if you can, not every one of us can just set up a manufacturing division right now and start making, Purell hand sanitizer type products or medical supplies. But, like, what can you do? Everybody can do something. And I think if we're measuring it only by monetary reward, that's a very short-term view, right? Because right in the short term right now, some of the things we do may have zero monetary reward. In fact, we might have to invest or lose money. But if it's for the right reason, if it has the right impact, when things turn around, like you said, there's always a reward there. And the financial side gets taken care of. Like it just happens. And maybe if you've never experienced it firsthand, you have a hard time believing that, but it's true. And I think it's also predicated on, how do you measure success? Like, do you need $1 billion to be successful? Or did you cover everything? You've got money in the bank, you've made an impact, and things are moving forward and you're progressing. Because if that's the measure of success, then it is true. Just about everybody can find that.
Right. And in this case, I mean, we were telling this guy we didn't want his business anymore. So we take the hit financially originally, but in the long term, you're doing the right thing. I need to make sure that people who are coming to our website make sure that they get the part that they need. And so the short term pain of that guy having to kick him off is negligible in my, and it is about how you define success. At the end of the day, I can go to bed at night and have a good conscience that I'm doing the right thing. Um, that's so important to me. Um, all of that other stuff doesn't matter. And like I said, the money comes if you do the right thing and you're out to serve people. It
Yeah.
just does.
Yeah, no, I've experienced it too. I mean, I've started, this is my second business starting during a downturn. I started my contracting business '09, starting this consulting business in 2020. Fortunately, I got a head start with the podcast, but the response that people have had to the work that I've done, like in the last 6 months to a year, has been really awesome, because I think people see the genuine desire to try to help in some way. And it was like, well, how can I help, right? How can I help? Where do I have expertise and experience that could be beneficial? And I was podcasting for 2 years before I started the Heavy Duty Parts Report, just doing general business. And it was too generic. It just didn't have a way of penetrating the noise. And then I remember when I realized, like, wow, nobody's really doing a good job of serving the heavy duty parts industry. And I've been in it since 1998. It was like, how did I miss that? But I don't think I ever would have found it if I hadn't had that desire to serve all along and was willing to put in the work consistently over time. So there was a long period of time with no return on investment. But then all of a sudden, when you keep trying and you keep trying different things and you pivot and you keep going, you find the combination that works, it clicks, and then it starts to take off. And so anybody right now that's feeling, I don't know, that's feeling down or feeling desperate because of what they see on the news, half of that is real, in my opinion, and the other half is just your feelings.
Right.
And the people that get comfortable with being uncomfortable and have the right attitude and go to work hard, that has to be a recipe for success.
Well, in a literal sense, you need to watch and pay attention to what's going on. You turn the TV on and watch maybe the first 5 or 10 minutes of the news, then you turn it off, because the rest of it is just, I don't want to say fear mongering, but it's just, the news isn't good, and it's not gonna it's not gonna make you feel good, and it's not gonna pick you up, and it's not, if you, again, if you're into serving people and you're into, okay, what am I going to do to try and make a difference? That's a whole different shift than watching the news and getting taken down that downward path.
Yeah. What you feed grows. So
Absolutely.
if you feed fear, it's going to grow, right? If you feed pragmatism right now and optimism, a combination of the two, you have to be realistic. But if you feed those things and you use common sense, and then you feed your optimism and you go to work on behalf of your community today, and then tomorrow you worry about building your business, you're going to get through this. And we can cut a long way. I mean, we grew up poor, we had nothing, and we survived. And we not only survived, but I remember many happy times with family and friends, laughing, having a meal. It might be a sparse meal, but having a meal together. That was some of my favorite memories of my childhood. And we've got so much abundance, and that's the part I see a lot of people right now in their eyes. They're just afraid of what they're going to lose. And the reality is, a pandemic can take everything away.
Right.
Something unexpected can take everything away. People are always afraid of what they might lose, but sometimes what you're going to lose, you can't control. So why worry about that? Like, if you've got food, clothing, a house, and people who love you, then you've got the foundation. And then if you've got a work ethic and the desire to help your community and to help your industry, those people, I've never seen those people fail. They might fail short term, they might have problems in the short term, but on a long enough timeline, those people never fail. And we see that with the greatest generation, right? World War I, Great Depression, World War II. I'm
Yeah.
sorry, but I'd take 9/11, the 2008 recession, and the pandemic over World War I, the Great
Oh,
Depression, the Spanish flu, and World War II.
yeah.
Those people were up against it, and they came out of it, and they built a strong nation here in Canada and in the US. And like, we're from those people. So got the will, the desire, we can do it. I know we can.
One of the things I was very fortunate when I was young, we were exporting truck parts down into Santiago, Chile, and I thought I was just going down there for a week, but I ended up spending 4 months down there. And one of the things that I noticed is how happy everybody was. And at that time, the mean salary was around $200 a month. And yet they were just so joyful, and uh, family was so important to them. And the neighbors in the community where I was, they all knew that Gringo was there, and they rallied behind to make sure I was safe and protected. And I it had such a profound impact on me, because I came from that poor, not having anything, and then looking at these guys and going, maybe my my interpretation of success is skewed here based on our North American lifestyle.
Mm.
Maybe I need to revisit this. And at the time, I was driving an old jalopy of a car, and I wanted this, nice sports car. And but when I came back, I'm like, that is not what I need. This is just a fool's errand. And I was very fortunate to go through that in my early 20s. And out of that came Parts Link and Truck Parts Inventory, and I knew how to delay that gratification to build something, because building something has far more rewards than getting that short-term self-validation hit by buying something stupid. Like,
Yeah.
when what 20-year-old doesn't want a Lamborghini sports car or something? You know what I mean? And so, to your point, a lot of those people in those generations didn't have a choice. There wasn't the amount of abundance that there is now. There wasn't the opportunity. What opportunity was there for you to start a podcast? I mean, the technology wasn't even developed yet. We really need to focus on what's good here.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree 100%. And the, when you think about like success in those terms, right? It changes your perspective. And when you talk about building something, when we were building our last business, our entire objective had nothing to do with money first. We had this objective around our people, and we call it stakeholders in the business. So your stakeholders in the business are primarily your customers. So what great thing are you going to do on their behalf? Then you have your employees, you have your suppliers, you have your lenders and investors, and then you have the owners. And that was our viewpoint of it. And we got that from Michael Lee Gerber, who's the author of the
Yeah,
E-Myth. And
love that.
yeah, and Michael and I, we communicate regularly.
Oh,
He's
wow.
a mentor of mine, and we have a digital relationship, but I speak with him regularly. And
when I first, sorry to interrupt you, but when I first read that book, I was turning around, looking around to see if he had a camera in my office, because that was me. It was,
yeah,
and that changed my life. That book.
yeah,
Gotta
and
tell you.
having that viewpoint though really was impactful for us, because like all of our employees, they all had a life goal that was outside of the business that we were supporting. And of course, each employee's got a different life goal. They have a different primary aim in their personal life, but whatever it was, that's what we hired people for. Like, we hired people who had no experience, who knew nothing about our business. And we were like, in the interview, it was like, what's your primary aim? What's your life goal? And the people who responded with something like passionate, and they were like, well, I really want to do this. And we were like, okay, well, this is how we can support that. We can give you these hours. We can help you to make more money this way than you are making now. We can support that. And ironically, when we sold the business, fortunately, we sold to someone who had the same mindset. We were very well matched that way. So he continued on with that. And out of all the people that worked for me, almost none of them quit. They're all still with the business 4 years later.
Wow.
And why do you think the business is successful? Because you have a bunch of passionate people who come to work every day who are motivated by something outside of revenue. But here's where the interesting thing about revenue comes in. Because we had that focus, we did make good money. And because we made good money, we could reinvest. So we had the capital and the resources to expand and to grow and to make more of an impact and contribution. And that's, to me, combining that with continuous improvement and systems is the name of the game.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. And I talk about how I didn't have any monetary return on investment for my first podcast, but I got to meet some heroes like Michael Gerber and become friends with them. Like, how cool is that?
Wow.
I mean, that to be able to have that kind of relationship with someone like that has just been a blessing that I can't put a dollar value on that. And again, it's not like I fly down to his house and hang out. It's a digital relationship. We email each other, we call each other, we do video calls and stuff from time to time. But that just wouldn't have been possible if I hadn't been willing to put myself out there, work hard, and serve.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Have you subscribed to the podcast yet? Go to heavydutypartsreport.com today to subscribe to the podcast. And don't forget to give us a 5-star rating and review on the podcast player of your choice. I'd like to remind everyone to focus on cost per mile over purchase price, and let's keep those trucks and trailers rolling.